everyone, and welcome to episode 24 of the Halftime Sports Talk Show. This week, I have two special guests on, my good friend Max Mesman and also another good friend of mine, Taylor Gautney. Great week of college football last week. We're going to talk some more college football this week, along with some NFL. But guys, how you doing?
Doing good today, Reese. Appreciate you having us on the show. I mean, it feels like just 2 years ago we were all in high school together doing, high school games. And now me and Taylor, obviously Taylor's going to explain his background a little bit. I'm at Full Sail University right now in Orlando, Florida, and you're getting ready to go to Troy University after finishing up at Auburn High School. So we're all sports guys, and I'm just ready to talk some ball with y'all like the old days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Taylor. I go to Arizona State. I'm currently a sophomore. I've gotten a lot of great opportunity covering ASU football, but got to be a little unbiased for the show. But yeah, like Max said, it feels like I literally got Snapchat memories on my phone a few days ago from all of our play callers and Tigers Den episodes with some of my best friends. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to have you all on the episode. Ready to talk some sports, like you guys said. We're going to get right into it now with our first matchup. We're going to go to week 6 recap. Our first matchup up is FSU versus Miami. This game, it was not close until the end. Miami really looked solid. I feel like this Miami team's a championship contender. Carson Beck, 241 yards passing, 20 for 27, 4 touchdown passes. And then Tommy Castellanos, 272 yards, 25 for 45, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Guys, what was your take on this game between Miami and FSU?
Well, guys, listen, I have breaking news out of Dade County. Miami has officially clinched the ACC championship, and I'll tell you why. This Miami team is the best team in college football right now. And by best team, I mean most complete team. You look at their roster, there's really not a weakness that they have. And they just beat a Florida State team, which say what you want. They lost to Virginia, and had in a game where they had the quickest field storm probably in college football history. I mean, they literally had the fans on the field. But they beat a Florida State team, and you look at the rest of their schedule. They don't have Georgia Tech, they don't have Virginia, and you just beat Florida State. That's the three other ranked teams in your conference. So this Miami team, I think this win says a lot about who they were. And if you're somebody who just checked the box score Sunday morning and you saw, oh, Miami beat Florida State by 6. This game was they had a 25-point lead going into the fourth quarter, 28-3. So they were dominant this game, and then Florida State tried to make a little pushback. So I think this game says a lot more about Miami than it does Florida State. Although Florida State, you had the great win against Bama to start the season, and now you've lost your last 2 games, which are both conference games. And with the rest of the season, you don't play Georgia Tech, who I think is now in the driver's seat to get an ACC championship bid against Miami. It's really tough for the Seminoles, but great win for the Hurricanes, and I'm looking forward to see where they end up at the end of the season. Should be good.
Yeah, I like what you said there, Max. I mean, Florida State coming in this game lost to Virginia last week, like you said, quickest field storm I've ever seen in college football history, in my opinion. And then that Bama win, the first game of the season, really stood out. Bama now getting back on track with those wins. We'll talk about that a little bit later on the show. But this Miami team just seems legit. I mean, Carson Beck looks like he's the quarterback that Miami needed to possibly get over the hump to get into the playoffs. And this Miami team just looks solid. The defense is a little bit questionable, but I feel like they'll be able to adjust some things. But Florida State, I really feel like going into the next few weeks, I feel like it comes down to just play calling and stuff like that. Like that 4th and 8 that they went for when it was 7-3, they could have kicked the field goal there. I mean, you got to just take the points at the end of the day. And that's some mistakes from the coaching side of things, and I'm sure they can fix those.
Yeah, for me, I think Florida State after that Alabama win, like Reese was saying, was on such a high, and they're like, "Oh, we just beat Bama. We were horrible last year, 2-10. We beat the number 8 team in the nation while unranked, and then you play 2 cupcake games in a row, you lose 2 in a row. So I think if you're Florida State, if you're Florida State, you have to win out, especially with Georgia Tech, how good they're playing, and now Virginia's on the come up, and I think Louisville is one of the teams that can honestly sneak into the ACC championship. But if you're Florida State looking at the rest of your schedule, you don't play a single ranked opponent. You play at Clemson, and Clemson has been horrible this year. But yeah, I genuinely think that Miami is the best team in the nation. They should be number one. They're getting first place votes. Carson Beck has played amazing, but he also has weapons around him. You look at Malachi Tony in that game against a good FSU defense, 107 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then CJ Daniels also with 2 touchdowns. So I think if you're a Miami Hurricane fan, you're throwing this up all day, and I think you have a great chance of making the ACC and just walking your way into the college football playoffs at this point.
Yeah, because that's the next thing. I mean, I wanted to get into is Miami. I mean, is a legit championship contender. I feel like, going looking at the FanDuel odds, or I don't know which odds you could look at right now. A lot of them are kind of different, but I feel like FanDuel's the most accurate. Theirs has Miami in first, obviously. Georgia Tech's the second place team. Right now, in my opinion, if I had any odds, it'd be Miami, Georgia Tech, maybe Virginia's in that conversation. Duke making a case for that. Duke's 3-0 in the ACC now, and then, like you said, Taylor. Louisville looks like a solid team coming in, even after losing to a Virginia team who actually is a surprisingly better than a lot of people thought this year. And like I mentioned last episode, Virginia was a little bit underrated coming in this year. The last time they were good was 2019. So I feel like the ACC still is not. I just don't see them as a football conference. I mean, there's not a lot of good teams that I see in this conference, but Miami definitely for sure has cemented themselves into the ACC championship conversation. But gonna move on
Yeah,
now.
I mean, and
Oh, I didn't know you were
sorry about
saying.
that.
No, no, no.
I was just gonna add one last thing. I mean, Miami, you look at the rest of their schedule, right? You
Yeah,
have Louisville at home, Stanford at home, at SMU, at home against Syracuse, who they have me at quarterback basically right now with
yeah,
all their injuries, at home against NC State, Virginia Tech on the road, and at Pitt. Who are they losing to? I mean, maybe at SMU. I mean, you said Louisville's sneaky, but that's going to be in Hard Rock.
yeah.
So, I mean, I think this Miami team, like you said, Taylor, is going to waltz into the ACC championship. And if they're undefeated at the end of the season, they can win or lose that, and they're going to be in the playoff.
Yeah, and I mean, like you mentioned, Max, Miami will play Louisville. That game should be a good game. I mean, if Louisville can get things going and maybe get in the rankings, that could be a good game. But FSU will host Pitt this weekend. Later we'll get into why I don't think FSU should be a top 25 team, but that's like I said, we're getting to that later. But we're gonna move on now to our next game, and it's kind of laughable. Penn State, I thought was I said it last week. I said very inconsistent, lack of effort against Oregon, and I mean you just got to look at this game and be like UCLA outcoached, outplayed Penn State. Drew Allard 200 yards, 19 for 26, 2 touchdowns, and then Nico Imaliava 166 yards in the air, 17 for 24, 2 TDs, and 3 rushing TDs. I mean, UCLA just simply outplayed the Nittany Lions at the Rose Bowl. And I just really feel like this Penn State team is done for the rest of the season. I just can't
Yeah.
see where they can continue.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Jay
one of
Aller's. Sorry, Max. I'll go if you want me to.
no, you're good. You're good. Yeah,
I
go ahead.
genuinely think Drew Aller might be one of the most overrated players in college football history at this point. I mean, you look at Penn State's history, you look at last year, you have Bo Pribula backing up, and you have to make the decision, okay, do we go Drew Aller, Bo Pribula, or do we try to get a transfer quarterback? You let Bo go, and now Missouri is a top 20 team now unranked losing to UCLA. And I think all Nico needed was a young coach with Jerry Neuheisel, a young guy that played for UCLA, knows the culture. He can come in, take over an entire coaching staff basically. He's basically the head coach, the OC, and the defensive coordinator at this point. And Penn State, you have that big loss against Oregon. You go into UCLA, you're like, oh, we're probably going to win by a lot. And then UCLA, a team that hasn't led all season, dominates that game. Again, this is another game on the scoreboard, in my opinion. UCLA was up 27-7 at halftime. UCLA dominated this game, and I mean, you look at UCLA, they're 1-1 in the Big Ten. They're still kind of right there. I don't think they're going to make a push for anything, but they could make a bowl game at this point, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Sorry, Max. I don't know, but like
No, you're good. You're good.
I really feel like this UCLA team. I did look at the schedule after the Penn State game. They don't have a winnable game on the schedule, in my opinion. I mean, maybe the most winnable game is I think they have Maryland coming into town, maybe, but Maryland's not that bad. I mean, they have a young quarterback and Malik Washington, and I don't see UCLA being that good, and that's why the Penn State loss hurts even more because say UCLA is to lose out and go 1-11, then I mean that just really hurts, and I feel like James Franklin, which we'll get to that in a minute, I feel like his job is at jeopardy.
Well, I 100% agree with your point, Taylor, about Drew Aller. My favorite quote regarding Drew Aller this week was from David Crane, who shout out Crane and Company, one of the best shows out right now, second behind Halftime Sports Podcast, hosted by Reese Kinder. But my favorite quote was Drew Aller is the Tim Tebow of Zach Calzadas. And I think that couldn't be more true. I mean, he's got the build. He's 6'5", 240 pounds, rocket of an arm, but he just can't make the plays when he needs to make the plays. He just doesn't have that dog in him. And also, I love your point, Taylor, about Bo Prabula. They had a better quarterback in that room last year. And now he's in Missouri at a Missouri team who's undefeated and is going to play Alabama this year, this next week, which we're going to talk about. And then my final thing was James Franklin's entire thing while he's been at head coach for the Penn State Nittany Lions is that he beats everybody he's supposed to, and then he goes up against a team that's as good or better than Penn State is, and he doesn't get it done. Now, you've seen in consecutive weeks, Penn State's lost to an Oregon team that I would say is better than them. So that's usual James Franklin. But then you go on the road to a UCLA team that hasn't led all season at all, hasn't led 1 second of the entire college football season, and you get beat 42-37 on the road. I think James Franklin's time is done at Penn State. And if y'all watched his press conference after the game, they asked him about the loss, and he said, "Oh, the travel was long, and we had a couple injuries coming off the Oregon team." You think New Mexico had injuries or had long travel against UCLA when they beat them to death the weeks before y'all played them? You think Oregon was complaining they had to leave from Oregon in the top northeast part of nowhere of the United States of America to go to Pennsylvania and beat y'all's ass, excuse my language, in a 110,000 sold out Beaver Stadium during a whiteout? James Franklin's done at Penn State. And honestly, I think there's a guy in South Florida by the name of Alex Golish that should be getting a call from the Nittany Lions really soon.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, Max. And Taylor too. I mean, I feel like Drew Allard, it's been the same story over and over again the past few years. Is like Drew Allard has been so overrated. And, Arch Manning too is an example as an overrated quarterback, which we'll get to that next. Both of those quarterbacks were supposedly quarterbacks that were in the Heisman race, and Drew Allard just has not looked like it this season. And for the Nittany Lions' sake, like you said, Max, the Nittany Lions every time, I feel like I've been watching college football so long. I feel like every time I see Penn State play a big game, they always drop it. It's like either to Ohio State, Michigan, now Oregon joins the conference. USC's in that conference now. I feel like they drop those games that really matter. I know last year they made the college football playoff. They made it far, but that's because you got to look at it. They won the games they were supposed to, like you said, and James Franklin
They
was able
also
to get
played
those.
Boise State in
Yeah,
the
I mean, like they played Boise State first round. You can't just say Penn State's a good team after that. And I think it comes with some organizational changes. I feel like you got to get rid of James Franklin. I know he was good at Vanderbilt, had a track record there for being 9-3, 8-4 some seasons. And then I know when he came to Penn State, he was decent. Won an Ohio State game off of a blocked field goal. But I feel like for Penn State, it's just time to move on. You got to just say, at the end of the day, we got to win these big games. We got to make a playoff push, and we got to win a national championship. And this is what the Nittany Lions need to do if they want to win.
I feel like a key takeaway as well from the Penn State and Texas struggle that you said we'll talk about later is the AP preseason top 25 just does not need to be a thing. You play
Mm-hmm.
week one, you see who the best teams are. I don't like this thing that you look at a roster, you're like, oh, this roster is going to be good because the number one and number two teams in the preseason AP top 25 are now unranked after losing to an opponent that didn't have a win in UCLA, and then a Florida team that is just at the bottom of the barrel and is about to fire their head coach.
Yeah, I totally agree. But
Yeah, I couldn't agree more as well.
yeah,
So,
I mean, it's just like at the end of the day, I feel like Taylor said, we'll get to that later as well. The AP poll just I just don't have any more words to say about the AP poll. I've been talking about it for 3 weeks now, and it's just kind of the same old thing, just how bad they've been. But we're going to move on now to our next game. As I mentioned a minute ago, it is Texas versus Florida. Both teams coming in this game. Texas a little bit sluggish, and Florida, like Taylor said, down in the dumps in the SEC. Hasn't looked good all season. The three losses came to LSU, Miami, and the University of South Florida. All by a little bit. Miami loss was kind of a blowout, but the South Florida loss was a 2 point loss, and LSU they lost by 10. But stat line for this game: Arch Manning 263 yards, 16 for 29, two TDs and two INTs in this game. DJ Lagway feel like had the game of his life: 298 yards, 21 for 28, two touchdowns and interception. This Florida team looks solid in this game, and coming in this game, I do my pick'ems every week. I update them every week, put them out. I predicted Texas to win, which I shouldn't have. I should have picked Florida to win because this is a 90,000 seated stadium that is super loud. And when it comes to a game like this, I feel like Florida fans and Auburn fans are similar. Auburn sucks, Florida sucks, and when they both suck, they still show up to the big games. And when those big games matter, you never know what could happen. And we saw what happened on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at this game. Florida and Billy Napier are in the exact opposite situation that Penn State and James Franklin are. And hear me out, because Penn State, look at last season and look at this season. You beat every team you're supposed to, every team. But then you go up against Notre Dame in the semifinal, and then throughout the season you go up against big teams like Ohio State and Michigan, and you can't get it done. But you beat all the teams you're supposed to. Florida's the opposite, where Billy Napier will drop games to South Florida, and he'll drop games that you're supposed to win at the University of Florida, but then he'll redeem himself by winning these types of games against number 9 Texas, or last year when they upset LSU. So if you're Florida, it's a great win, but it's a very confusing time to be in Gainesville right now, because you have Billy Napier, who has shown that he can get it done against the best of the best, against Texas and against LSU and against Ole Miss and all these other teams over the last 2 years. But you can't rely on him to beat. It's almost like a wild card. It's almost like you're rolling the dice every week. I mean, and you look at the players, DJ Lagway, I think we all knew that DJ Lagway has all the tools to be an elite quarterback. He just has to put it all together. And Dallas Wilson, he's a problem. I'll tell you what. I mean, 6'3" freshman, two tuds, a buck 11, and some fries against Texas. I mean, this Florida team is going to be a team that's going to be dangerous against every team upcoming. And then Texas, I mean, I was telling everybody going into the season that Arch Manning he wasn't going to be the Heisman #1 overall draft pick just because of his last name. He played AAA ball, 3A ball in high school. I knew he was going to need some time. Now, that being said, do I think he can get to that point where he is a top quarterback? Yes, but I don't think it's going to be this year. And if you're the Texas Longhorns, I think right now you know, it's all about trying to build up your confidence, because could they still maybe make a run at it this year? Yeah, maybe. But you still have a young quarterback that's underdeveloped. I think this year is about building confidence for next year, where you're still going to have the pieces because you're in Austin, Texas. You're always going to have the great players. It's just about, can Sark get these guys confidence, mainly Arch Manning, but also other young players, that can he get their confidence to the level it needs to be to win games?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say if Arch Manning's last name was some Smith or Mesman or Kinder or something, not Manning,
Mm-hmm.
he would not be a starting quarterback right now.
Yeah.
He would have been benched after the second game of the season because they lose to Ohio State and then they play nobody, and he's still kind of struggling in that game. There hasn't been a game this year where I've seen Arch Manning play and I'm like, wow, this guy is a Manning. He is amazing. He's a great SEC quarterback. And if you're Texas, you're in even more trouble. You go to the rest of your schedule. You have the Red River rivalry this weekend. Granted, Oklahoma doesn't have their quarterback, but they're still a good team. And then you still have three ranked opponents with Vanderbilt at Georgia and Texas A&M. So if you're Texas, you're in this situation. You're like, we just dropped a game to a team that we should have beaten. We were favored to beat by a lot. We should have beaten by a lot. And I like Max's point because I was telling this to my friends on my own talk show here at ASU. If you're a Florida fan, do you want to win this game? If you really want Napier gone, do you want to beat Texas and do you want to win upset games when you genuinely want Billy Napier gone because you can't beat opponents that you can, yeah, that you should, like USF?
But yeah, guys, next question up. What does this win do for Florida's season moving forward?
I think it just sets up Florida, to put it quickly. I think it just sets up Florida for a almost type of like the March Madness term, like an upset team or like a Cinderella story. I don't think they're gonna make a playoff run. I don't think that's gonna happen, not with this schedule for Florida. But I do think they're gonna be kind of that team to play upset, against, I mean, they play Texas A&M this upcoming Saturday. This is an A&M team. It'll be in Aggieland, but this is an A&M team that has seemed a little, here and there week in and week out. And they also play Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee. So I think they're going to play upset and probably win one or two of those games. That being said, I feel like if you're Florida, I think it's time to go away from Napier, even though he kind of salvaged his job against the Longhorns. I think it's time for him to go, and I think at most they can hope for is a bowl game this season.
Yeah, I think if you're Florida, I kind of like the Cinderella term that you use, but also I think this sets you up for the future because you have Lagway for at least another year because he's young. Jaden Baugh, their running back, has been a dog. He averages 5.2 yards per carry. Vernell Brown, Dallas Wilson, like Max was talking about earlier, you have all these young offensive weapons. You have a great defense, and especially within the SEC with defense, you can always go in the portal. You can always get new players around here. And they're near the top of the recruiting rankings too for next year. So I think if you're Florida, do you really want to fire Billy Napier when he has brought you all of these players, all of these recruits, but you aren't seeing the success? I think they have the talent. I just don't think the overall scheme is getting them to that mountaintop that they can be at.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like keeping Napier. I really don't know at this point. Only time will tell if they're able to win some of these bigger games and maybe finish out the season 8-4, 7-5. Then there's a possibility you could be like keep him, but then that lingers into next season. If they lose their first game of the year, then you're back to the same thing where it's like fire Napier. The message boards are just going crazy. So I just really don't know at this point. I feel like maybe you should hope that Florida loses out so you can get a new coach and restart. But like Max said, I mean the recruiting has just been so good for Florida, and you don't really want to lose that.
Yeah, and I would say one last thing for Florida. I mean, if you're, you know, I like the point you brought up, Taylor, about the recruiting trail, and we're gonna get to Auburn. Obviously, I see that big flag. I know where we're all from. We're gonna get to Auburn and Hugh Freeze. But it's almost that situation, excuse me. It's almost that situation where it's like, yeah, you're bringing in the great players. Now coach the players. And if you're not doing that, you can't be the coach. I'm sorry. Like a good motivational speech and some NIL money can bring a player.
Mm.
A great coach wins games, and I haven't seen that from Napier at a consistent basis. So my final quote would be fire Napier and hire somebody. I mean, I know I said Golish definitely knows the organization, or excuse me, the location much better than Penn State in Gainesville, Florida. I think that could be a great hire. I think Summerall from Tulane would also be a great hire for University of Florida.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see, what happens with Florida the rest of the season. What happens with some of these jobs that are, you know, beginning to, become available as the season continues. So, like I said, we're gonna keep an eye on Florida. We're gonna keep an eye on Penn State. Those job openings possibly at the end of the season. But we're gonna move on now to an SEC matchup that in my opinion, thought was actually going to be closer. I thought this was going to also be an upset. Vanderbilt versus Alabama. I'm very high on Vanderbilt. This Vanderbilt team, I feel like, is a better Vanderbilt team than we've seen in, 100 years. I mean, this Vanderbilt team is really good. But the stat line did not show it. Diego Pavia, 198 yards, 21 for 35, nothing to show, no touchdown passes. And then Ty Simpson, 340 yards, 23 for 31, two touchdown passes and an interception. Ty Simpson just showing me why he continues to possibly be a Heisman contender.
Yeah, Ty Simpson, I think he's one of those guys that falls under the radar. He's just a Bama boy that was a five-star recruit, a highly recruited player, and is finally getting his chance. But I'm waiting for the day when people look at Ty Simpson and they see a NFL ready quarterback. They see a Heisman contender. I think right now it's between him and Dante Moore for Oregon.
Hmm.
But Ty Simpson's an absolute dog. Ryan Williams isn't even their leading receiver this year. They have Jeremy Bernard. I think again with Alabama, I think it's kind of the opposite. It's Alabama and Florida have similar talent, but Kalen DeBoer goes out and he coaches his players. I don't think Kalen DeBoer deserves all the hate that he gets. I think Alabama is still right in this, currently number 8 in the nation, have a tough schedule coming up, but yeah, I think Alabama is just fine, and I think this game against a really, really good Vanderbilt team with Eli Stowers, who's going to be an NFL tight end, Sean Alexander as their running back's a dog. They have what's their receiver's name? I'm blanking right now.
Junior
Junior
Cheryl,
Sherrill, he's a
yeah.
dog too. He's probably going to be an NFL guy. So I think this game just proved that, and I hate to say it as an Auburn fan, but Alabama's here to compete and they're here to make an SEC run, especially in a year where the SEC is just historically good.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said right there, Taylor. I mean, Ty Simpson, to me, he almost reminds me of, if you go back a little bit into the vault, Michigan State Kirk Cousins is what he kind of reminds me of. He was kind of a little bit of a not under recruited guy, but he was, a 4-star, wasn't the overly talented, didn't have any of the crazy physical traits, but just a really high IQ for the game. That's what Ty Simpson kind of shows me. But I want to talk about Vanderbilt for a little bit. This was the most athletically competitive Vanderbilt's ever been with Alabama. And I
Yeah.
say even more than last year because last year Vanderbilt caught Alabama off guard. Alabama, you beat Georgia, you're number one in the country. Jalen Milroe balling, Ryan Williams balling. You think you got everything going for you. And then Diego Pavia, the Hugh Freeze and SEC killer, is just sitting in the corner and he's able to pounce on you. This year, Vanderbilt, they knew coming in, Bama knew that this is a Vanderbilt team that's not going to catch them off guard. They had every reason to blow out Vanderbilt by 3 scores, and the score doesn't tell the story of this game. This game was a one possession game with 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this was a Vandy team that, yes, this loss hurts, and Diego Pavia, he talks a lot of ish online, and he's going to receive all that back when he doesn't perform well. And I don't think he performed well in this game. But I think this is a loss that, there's never a constellation win. I think you either win or you lose. But I think Vanderbilt, this is a game they can really build off of. And who knows? I mean, a two-loss SEC team is getting into the playoff. And you look at their schedule right now. I mean, you have LSU at home. The next game, LSU's offense has looked kind of iffy. They could win that game. And then you have Missouri at home. And then you have at Texas, Auburn at home, Kentucky at home, and then at Tennessee. You look at 3 of those games, LSU, Missouri, Tennessee. Those are going to be real big tests that if you can win 2 of those, you could still have a chance to get into the college football playoff.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I mean, I was talking to some friends the other day. I was like, they were saying how Vanderbilt this year is just shock, and I wasn't really shocked. They're returning a lot of their offense. The defense, though, I was actually shocked because the start of the year I heard all this talk about how Vanderbilt's defense was one of the best defenses in the SEC, and I mean I stand true to believe that because I've seen so much. Just, I mean, their defensive line has just been really good. The run defense has been solid this season for Vanderbilt. This is one of those Vanderbilt teams, and another coach that is making a name for himself, Clark Lee, I mean, could get a big job sometime soon. And you hate to see it from Vanderbilt. If he was able to get a job, I feel like they'll go back down in the dumps again. But this Vanderbilt team is a special Vanderbilt team. And like you said, Max, that upcoming schedule, LSU, and then you got Missouri, Tennessee, and Texas. Those are some big games coming up that Vanderbilt really needs to, win those games. I feel like LSU, Missouri, I feel like they can win those games because those are at home. And I mean, a lot of people are like, it's at home, it's at Vanderbilt. People are going to show up from the other team. But actually, I saw this on Instagram the other day. Vanderbilt Stadium has actually turned back away from the away fans coming all the time. Now it's back to where the home fans actually show up, and Vanderbilt fans want to watch Vandy football. And just Clark Lee and Diego Pavia and this Vanderbilt team have changed the culture there in Nashville.
Yeah, and I think Vanderbilt is one of those teams that it's hard to root against them, especially when they are playing the Texases, the Bamas, because they're so fun to watch. They run so many run pass options. They run so many quarterback design runs. They run these trick plays. I remember watching the game. They have this play where Pavi has an option to hand it off, and then it's a little bubble pass to either Stowers or Alexander out of the backfield. So this Vanderbilt team is super fun to watch, and I think it's going to be fun to see exactly what they can do the rest of the year because, like Max said, with the playoff, only one group of five team getting it, and then one team from each conference. ACC is probably going to have one. The Big 12 might have two. The Big 10 is going to have a lot. There's probably going to be four or five SEC teams that end up making the playoff, and I genuinely think Vanderbilt could be one of them at two losses at the end of the year.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah,
But
I mean, to wrap it off, or no,
no, no,
you
no.
go,
I
Reese.
didn't know. I didn't know you were speaking. Mine's a little bit behind, so it's weird.
Yeah, there's a little bit lag. I'll just
Yeah.
say it shout like we need to give Bama all the praise here because I'll tell you what, everybody in the world that isn't from Tuscaloosa and isn't a Roll Tide fan was going for Vanderbilt in this game, and
Hmm.
they stood up. And after a bad start, they got down 14-7 after a pick on a 4th and 1 where I really thought it was a bad play call. They were running it down their gut, and then Ryan Grubb decides to call a play action pass. I thought Bama got a little cute in some situations, but Bama, I mean, you talk about you lose the first game of the season to Florida State. People are saying, Kalen DeBoer, he's got to get fired. I mean, 7 days are over. And then you just come back with four straight wins, two of them against ranked SEC opponents. And I mean, this Bama team is scary. As an Auburn fan, I will say that with my whole heart. They are scary.
Yeah, I'm really excited to continue to see how this Bama team you know fires back after all the adversity they faced after that Florida State loss. But I'm like I said, I'm just excited to see, and I'm excited to see them play in person. Honestly, I'm going to the Iron Bowl, and I'm really excited to see Ty Simpson maybe light it up against an Auburn secondary that is not a bad secondary, and that Auburn defensive line that causes a lot of havoc up front. But gonna move on now to our last game of the Week 6 recap. It is Virginia and Louisville. This game was an early game actually on the slate. Chandler Morris didn't play that good, but still got the win. 149 yards and 19 for 31, one touchdown. And then Miller Moss actually looked a lot better in this game than I thought. 329 yards, 34 for 48, two TDs and an interception. And this game was just really good. Virginia won in overtime against the Cards at Louisville. So another big win for this Virginia team and Tony Elliott.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Virginia, you're in a division in a conference that we were talking about earlier. Miami, obviously the front runner in the ACC right now, no doubt about that. But you look at who that second team can be, you actually look at the ACC standings right now, and Virginia is 5-1, and that loss was to NC State. That wasn't a conference loss. They just added it on as a part of their non-conference. It's very confusing, but I'll say this Virginia team, shout out to Tony Elliott and Chandler Morris, and they're just a fun team to watch. They play against Florida State. I remember there was a play where it was 3rd and long, and they just ran a HB draw right up the middle, and it looked like it was stopped at 2 yards, and then he broke open for a touchdown. This is a team that embodies their head coach and Tony Elliott, a former player that's just strong-minded and like I said, yeah, you look at the ACC right now, the top two teams are Virginia and Duke right now. So this is a Virginia team that you look at the rest of their schedule, they have a chance to, make something shake in the ACC. And then on the side of Louisville, I mean, it's a tough loss, and now you have to go and play Miami at home, which is, not going to be super fun, or you have to play them on the road. And so, I mean, but Miller Moss, this is a Louisville team that's experienced, so I think they could bounce back from it, but we'll just have to see. It's their first taste of their first taste of adversity this year, and we'll see how they respond to it.
Yeah, and I think when you look at Virginia, they're not a team that's flashy. They're not going to run it. They're not going to run it down your throat. They're not going to throw it deep down the field. They win in the trenches and they win with a high-flying defense set by their defensive coordinator. They forced a fumble. They got an interception. They had a defensive touchdown in that game against Louisville. This Virginia defense, I think, is one of the best in the ACC, if not the best in the ACC. I think it's between them and Miami. They had that tough loss at NC State, but they bounced back 4 wins in a row. Rest of their schedule is a cakewalk, in my opinion, except for Cal and Duke. But other than that, I think the ACC, it's going to come down to, of course, Miami's here, and then Georgia Tech, Louisville, and Virginia, or maybe even Florida State are right here. Those four teams are fighting for the second spot. And I think if Chandler Morris can step it up and play even better than he has been, like play like he did in that Florida State game, not in this Louisville game, I think Virginia is the sky's the limit for the Cavaliers at this point.
Yeah, and I agree with y'all. I mean, Chandler Morris, in my opinion, is just not. He's not a passer. I mean, he was never meant to pass. I think he's kind of a running quarterback, like maybe a Gunnar Stockton, a Jackson Arnold type quarterback that can do both. But Chandler Morris this season's just been the surprise. I feel like of the season. This Virginia team just very underlooked. They didn't look like they were going to be a good team this year coming in. The schedule wasn't looking like it was going to be too hard for them coming in. I predicted them maybe going 6-6. I felt like because I just didn't see them making any moves to possibly get where the ACC championship could be in sight for them, but they have. I mean, the season's just been stellar for them, and like you guys said, the schedule looks very easy the rest of the season. They just got to look out for those teams, and we know how college football works. You can lose games that you're not supposed to on the road, even at home. And Virginia's just got to be the team that doesn't do that. And if they don't lose any of those games, then this Virginia team should be in Charlotte, North Carolina, playing in the ACC championship.
Yeah, I mean, to add the last point about Chandler Morris, I mean, talk about a success story of the portal. I mean, he started out at Oklahoma in 2020. All right, Chandler Morris started college in 2020 at University of Oklahoma. Didn't see any time, only threw 5 passes on the year. Then he transfers to TCU, starts for 3 years in a row, and does some good things, shows some good things on tape. And then he gets injured a couple of times through there. And so he transfers to North Texas last year, where really I think he was top five in passing yards in the country at North Texas, 31 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. It's like, okay, that gets the eyes of a Virginia team who here we have Chandler Morris, a graduate student, a guy that's played the game for a very long time in terms of college quarterbacks. Let's get him on a team that, like Taylor was saying, has a gritty defense, has a coaching staff that has built up an organization and a culture over the last couple of years. And so I think he's the perfect guy for this Virginia team. And I mean, yeah, this Virginia team is a team that like I would say this is the year because Chandler Morris, obviously, he's a graduate student. They got a couple of older guys. And yeah, if they can run through the rest of their schedule, which I think they will, and possibly upset Miami in the ACC championship, you could look at a playoff berth for the Cavaliers.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Tony Elliott's squad can do the rest of the season. But yeah, that will do it for Week 6 college football recap. Last week was supposed to be a snooze week, but it wasn't. Of course, college football, has just been this season. I felt like every week has just been perfect of college football. A lot of upsets, a lot of just games that are thrillers, and I'm really excited to see what Week 7 brings us. But speaking of Week 7. We're going to move on to Week 7 preview now. So my current picking record, the Arizona State Sun Devils sign over there. But my current picking record, I'm still below 500, guys. I have not
Oh
gotten
God.
above 500. I mean, 23 for 24.
It's like the
I
Tigers then, dude, where you were like, it was like
I
me,
was horrible.
Max, and then all the
Yeah,
way
dude.
down.
I still
I just
gotta.
know Reese, you're an upset. You're an upset
I
guy.
am.
Like
I
you,
love. I
Pick
love
all the
my
upsets, and then
upsets.
none of them ever happen.
Yeah, I love my
yeah.
upsets.
So
So I'm we're gonna start the show today. This one will not be an upset, but we're gonna start the show today with our first matchup, College Game Day, going to Eugene, Oregon, between Indiana and Oregon. This Indiana team, man, this is a team I really love. Kirk Cignetti, a great head coach. But the question is here: can the Hoosiers upset the Ducks and put themselves in championship talk?
No, I honestly don't think so. I think Dante Moore is the best player in college football by a mile. Fernando Mendoza's been good. He's been a good transfer story from Cal, getting a chance at a Big Ten school. 1,208 passing yards, 16 touchdowns, only one pick. But I think Oregon has proved that they can win big games in the regular season. They do it every year. They go undefeated in the regular season. They run their schedule. But I think if these two teams played in the playoff or in the Big Ten championship, I'd pick Indiana, but right now Oregon's at its peak. They had a bye week after that big win at Penn State. I think Oregon runs the table, and I think they cover the spread of 7.5 for sure.
I mean, I'll tell you what. I like that you brought up Fernando Mendoza because if you didn't, I was going to bring it up. Y'all were talking earlier about how Dante Moore and Ty Simpson are two of the front runners for the Heisman. Fernando Mendoza has definitely put himself in that conversation. I mean, 89 for 122. He has 33 incompletions so far this year on 122 passes. I mean, 16 touchdowns to one interception. Him and Dante Moore, you look at him, it's almost like looking in a mirror, and you're just looking at the same person. I mean, they're 2 yards separated for passing yards, two touchdowns separated, same amount of interceptions, almost literally one incompletion apart. But I think because this is going to be in Eugene, Oregon, college game days coming there. We saw the Oregon Ducks, which I know Penn State just lost to UCLA, so that win doesn't look as big. But I'll tell you what, that Penn State whiteout is nothing to play with. And then they went in there, and Dan Lanning just absolutely schemed up this Penn State team. And I think they're going to do the same against Indiana. I think it will be close. Right now, the line is -7.5. Oregon, I would probably say this is going to be around 31-24. It's going to be a high scoring game. Both of
Hmm.
these offenses are really good. But this Oregon defense, Mateo Uiagalelei, right now on this season, 4 sacks. He is going to be a name to watch out for. I think he's going to get after Fernando Mendoza, and I think Oregon gets out of there with a win and moves to 6-0.
Yeah, I agree with both y'all on this one. I don't see Indiana coming into Eugene and being able to upset the Ducks. The Ducks just to me, I was talking about this earlier actually with one of my good friends. I was like, well, I feel like Indiana and Oregon, that matchup, I just feel like Oregon's gonna be able to run away with it because Oregon's a championship contender. I mean, no doubt. I mean, this team is I feel like could be a national title team. I know we saw last year Ohio State made that magical run to beat the Ducks in the Rose Bowl. But this Ducks team's out for revenge. Dan Lanning, has had that. I feel like he's been backstabbed a lot by the Big Ten. A lot of comments have come out in media days and everything, and they've been talking trash about Oregon, how they shouldn't be in the Big Ten, stuff like that. And Penn State, he proved that he can win big games against Penn State. Now Indiana, this is another test. Great head coach and Kirk Cignetti, like I said. Fernando Mendoza, a good quarterback. They can put up points. Indiana can. I feel like they will be able to, but the Ducks just have too much firepower on offense and defense, and I feel like the Ducks are the team to win this one. Oh, I thought someone was gonna talk. No, it was like a little bit behind, but
Oh, my
no.
bad, my bad.
Yeah, no, I no, but we're gonna go away from the college game day game. I hope this game's close. I really do. I'm interested to see if Indiana can actually perform in a big environment. We didn't really see them last year play in one of those Big Ten environments like Ohio. Well, we did see them play Ohio State, but that was the only one that I feel like was tough for them. So I'm really excited to see if this Indiana team can, change it and possibly play good against an Oregon team. But our next game up is actually another Big Ten game. It is number one Ohio State and number 17 Illinois. This is in Champaign, Illinois. And the question is here: will Luke Altmaier continue his hot stretch of football, and will the Fighting Illini be able to get the job done against the Buckeyes in Champaign?
I'll lead us off with this one. No, they will not get it done. Shout out Luke Altmaier and this Illinois team. Love what Brett Bielema is doing there in Champaign, and it is in Illinois. But Illinois played a USC team that I'll say I'm personally not very high on at all, and it took them a late field goal to beat them at home. This Ohio State team is very good, even though I think Miami is the best team in the country. Ohio State's definitely in that second spot. And I mean, it's -14.5, the Buckeyes. I think they roll into Champaign and they beat them. I mean, maybe the one way that Illinois could keep this close is if Julian Sayin, who does have 3 interceptions on the year, if he doesn't play his best game. But I just think this Ohio State team, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Bo Jackson, who I don't think is related to Bo Jackson, the legend we all know and love, but maybe he is the way he plays. I think they're going to roll in, and I think this Ohio State defense is also one of the top players. The toughest part when playing the Buckeyes is you got to understand they have the best player in the country, debatable on both sides of the ball in Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. At any time in the game, either of those guys can make a game-breaking play. And look for a Caleb Downs late in the game interception on Luke Altmaier, and Ohio State's going to run away with it.
Yeah, I think that Luke Altmaier is a great story in college football. He sits behind Jackson Dart at Ole Miss and then transfers, gets his chance, builds up a program with Brett Bielema. But I mean, with Ohio State, like you said, Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, two of the best receivers in the country on the single team, and you shut that down, who those two have combined for 10 total touchdowns. You shut that down. And then you have the reincarnation of Bo Jackson from Auburn, who's averaging 7.5 yards per carry, has two touchdowns, 360 yards. I don't think Sayan is the best quarterback. I think he's if you're Ohio State, you won the national championship with Will Howard last year. You don't need this huge five-star quarterback. You've proved yourself so far this season. But the one thing Ohio State does not have going for them is that Texas win does not look as good right now after Texas has fallen off. I think this would be their statement win for the rest of the season, looking at their schedule, until that Michigan game, of course. But I think Ohio State just has too much firepower, too much offense, too much defense. Give me the Buckeyes not covering that. I believe it's 14 and a half now. I don't think they cover that. I think they win by at least 10 points. 34-24 high scoring game. Give me the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I agree with both y'all, and I am leaning more towards Taylor's side of things. I feel like Julian Saint's not the best quarterback, but I feel like the past few years we've seen Ohio State not have to have the best quarterback to win games. I feel like this game will be close, though. I don't think it's going to just be an outright blowout because Illinois, I know they have a smaller stadium than most Big Ten teams, but those fans do show up. I mean, they showed up at the USC game, and like Max, you said, I do as well feel like USC is a little bit overrated in the Big Ten. I don't know why they were ever ranked in the first place a few weeks ago against Illinois. It made no sense to me. They played nobody to start the season. But I do feel like this will be a closer game than a lot of people think. But the Buckeyes defense, it's just got to come down to that, I feel like, because this Buckeyes defense, a lot better than we've seen in the past. And if they're able to get the job done against an offense in Illinois that can score points, can score a lot of points, then this Buckeyes team should be able to get a big win.
Yeah, and I think Illinois as well is one of those teams that should not be ranked number 17 right now. They got blown out 63-7, I believe was the score against Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Barely beat USC, struggled against Purdue this past week. So I think Illinois is just one of those teams that they're ranking them high to have a big Big Ten game again.
Yeah.
But I think Ohio State runs away with it. They're the number one team for a reason.
Yeah, I totally agree. But gonna move on now to our next matchup. It's an SEC matchup, and we actually talked about them earlier. Alabama versus Missouri. This is in Missouri. You guys were high on Bo Perbula, but the question is here: is Missouri ready for this big game, or are they just a pretender?
I will say this.
Thanks.
Or you got it. All right, okay. I'll go. I'll make it quick. This Alabama team, 4-1. We talked about, you lose at the beginning of the year to FSU. Everybody's like, oh, this team, Saban era, they're done. Then reel off 4 wins, four of them things. Ty Simpson, he's got the magic touch. He's in the backfield. Everything looks great. You know what this reminds me of? Last year, Alabama, you beat Georgia. You're on top of the world, number one ranking. They're eighth right now, which is a lot, which is very high compared to what they were feeling like after that FSU loss. But you beat Georgia, and then you go on the road to Middle America. Last year it was Nashville. This year it's Columbia, Missouri, to face an undefeated team that really I don't think a lot of people have watched this team. This Missouri team has Ahmad Hardy, who I think could be the best running back in the country. I think it's him, Justice Haynes. There's a couple other names you could throw up there, but I think Ahmad Hardy is one of the best running backs in this game. And they got two of them. They have him and they have Jamal Roberts, both 500 plus yard rushers. And I think Bo Prabula is one of the stories that when people watch him at 12 o'clock on Saturday on ABC, I think that they're going to see why Penn State comments are all, why did we get rid of Bo Prabula? He's better than Drew Aller. Not only is he better than Drew Aller, I think he's one of the best QBs in the SEC. The line right now is minus 2.5 Bama. So I think it shows that people are betting on this Missouri team. I wouldn't be surprised if we get to 11 o'clock on Saturday and Missouri is the favorite going into this game because all the money is still laying with the Tigers. Give me Missouri to beat the Crimson Tide in an upset for the Tide fans and a joyous occasion for the Missouri Tigers. Give me 30 to 24. I think Missouri is able to control this game and they get some key turnovers on defense. And Bo Prabula has a game and reveals why he's one of the best QBs in the SEC.
Yeah, and on the other side, you look at Alabama, it's all about the pass game. Their leading rusher is Jam Miller, 38 carries, 182 yards. Ahmed Hardy on the other side, 103 carries, 9 touchdowns, 730 yards. They have a balanced passing and rushing attack, but I just think it's Alabama. It's another game, it's another ranked away game. Alabama has proved time and time again that they can win these big games, and I don't think Missouri has the home environment that people expect them to, especially against Bama. Bama fans travel, they're everywhere. I hate to say it, but I think Bama stays on their winning streak. I think there's not a single game on their schedule that you look at and they're like, they can't win this game. I think this is one of them that they win. I think they win 21 to 17, but I do understand why the line's close. It's going to be a good game, and I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to a last second drive by Ty Simpson, my Heisman winner right now.
Yeah, I definitely think Missouri in this game has the edge because Missouri actually has a solid defense. A lot of people, like Max, you said, a lot of people have not watched Missouri this season. And Missouri has a great defense, has some edge rushers that are really good on that team. And Hardy, the running back, like you mentioned, played at Louisiana Monroe last year. We watched him play against Auburn. He was not a bad running back. He picked up, I believe, in that game, maybe had almost near 100 rushing yards in that game against Auburn last year. And that dude just never goes down. I feel like I've seen highlights of him just breaking tackles after tackles, and I feel like he's going to be able to do that against a Bama defense who struggles covering the run. And if you're able to run it against this Bama defense, we saw against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt ran for almost 200 rushing yards. Maybe they did, but I feel like this Missouri team is going to be able to get the job done at home. This crowd, like Taylor said, a very underrated crowd in Columbia. They actually are renovating the stadium to make it bigger. So Missouri, I think, is going to get the win here against Alabama. I don't want to go against the Crimson Tide because I feel like I've gone against them 3 weeks in a row now, and they win every single time I go against them. So I'm going to stick with my pick for Missouri, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Crimson Tide get a big win and Ty Simpson has another one of those games where he throws for nearly 400 passing yards.
Yeah, and I'll say the last thing about this Missouri team. I mean, you talk about their defense, right? And a lot of people will say, "Well, oh, who have they played?" Right? And yeah, you to a point that is true. They played Kansas and South Carolina are their two biggest games. And Kansas, it's 42 to 31. That's the final score of the game. So you're probably like, "Oh, well, their offense carried them. Their defense was terrible." Kansas scored the first 28 in that game in the first half, and then they scored 3 the rest of the game while Missouri came back. And since then, they have been dominant on the defensive side of the ball. South Carolina gets a couple of plays from Lenore Sellers, that freaking alien that's in South Carolina right now, that's on a team that's not as good as it should be. But I think this Missouri team, Eli Drinkwitz has them playing to a game, and I just want a good game. At the end of the day, for these games, I just want a good game,
Mm-hmm.
and I think this Missouri team is going to get it done. But we'll see. It could obviously go the way of the Tide, as it so often does.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see this game. Big SEC matchup. I feel like SEC championship implications for sure, and definitely playoff implications. So I'm really excited to see both of these high-powered SEC offenses and defenses as well play some really good football on Saturday. But speaking of SEC, we are going to stay on SEC, and it's the Deep South's oldest rivalry between Georgia and Auburn. You know, I had to go with this game. And the thing is for this game, I think Auburn needs to win this game to save everything. I know you guys were like, "Oh man, why are we doing this game?" But I mean, this game you got to put it up there because it's always a good game, never fails. It's always close when it's at Jordan Hare Stadium. So I'm really excited to see what happens in this game. But I just want to know y'all's thoughts.
Yeah, I think Deep South oldest rivalry, it hasn't been a night game in what feels like forever, like a true night game at 6:30
Hmm.
Central Time. But Georgia is Georgia is Georgia. Their one loss is to Bama. They played great against a really, really good Tennessee team. Gunnar Stockton is a threat with his arm and his legs. They got a huge win against Kentucky. I just think Georgia has weapons, but I think Auburn has the home field environment. I honestly think Jackson Arnold is overhated. You look at his stats, he has 10 total touchdowns and not a single interception or a fumble. His offensive line just can't block for him. And I think if the offensive line for Auburn can block and hold off this really strong Georgia front seven led by CJ Allen, who has 36 total tackles so far this season, which is insane, and 2 sacks to add on to that. Their linebacker core is insane. But I think this Auburn team, if you stick with Jeremiah Cobb, you stick with the run game, you don't abandon it like you did in that A&M game. I think if Auburn runs the ball in that A&M game, they have a chance to win. If Auburn can get themselves out of pass heavy situations, such as the third and long, they only lost to Oklahoma by a touchdown and
Hmm.
then lost to Texas A&M by 6 points. I think this Auburn team is still underrated. I think Auburn has one of the best defenses in the SEC. I think at home, especially because I'm going, I want to see an Auburn win. I
Yeah.
haven't seen one in what feels like
Oh,
forever,
dude.
but give me the Auburn Tigers to upset
Oh
Georgia,
my
and I
gosh.
think Jordan Hare Stadium is going to be rushed, and I'm going to be a part of it.
I
Really
was
good.
saying in my head, I was like, there's no way he does it. And you did it. Gosh, man, this is what I'll say. I do think there has been unfair criticism to Jackson Arnold. I mean, you go on the road to Oklahoma and Texas A&M, two of, I would say, the premier defenses in the country. And for the most part, he holds up. Now, I think there are questions, rightful questions, like does he hold the ball too long? Does he take off too quick? And he has missed guys like Eric Singleton Jr. and Cam Coleman down the field when they
Hmm.
have been open. Um, I think when it comes down to it, I like one of the things you said as a concept. You said if they stick with the run game. Well, you know who's calling plays for the Auburn Tigers? It's a guy by the name of Hugh Freeze.
Hmm.
And Hugh, I have a ball. It's not with me. It's back in Auburn, and I wish I could go. I honestly might skip class at this point. Don't tell my teacher, and might just come down and watch the game with y'all. We'll see what happens. But I have a ball back home that's signed by Hugh Freeze and Bo Wallace and says "Go Rebs." It's back when he was at Ole Miss. It's because my aunt's an Ole Miss fan. She wanted to get me a signed ball as a Christmas gift, and I still have it sitting up on my desk. Love Hugh Freeze. Met him, got to meet him at the country club a couple of times when I worked back in Saugahatchee. Great guy. But being a good head coach, I don't care how good you are. I don't care how good I am to an old lady on the street. If I'm helping her up, pick up her mail, take it up to her doorstep, that makes me a great guy. But if I clock into work and I'm not doing my job, I get fired. Hugh Freeze has now missed on two quarterbacks. Missed on quarterbacks in the last 3 years. I will say that without a doubt. Peyton Thorne, he got Peyton Thorne, a guy who was benched at Michigan State, who did bad his first season at Auburn. And Hugh Freeze, the QB whisperer, he knows his QBs very well, which maybe he did at Ole Miss. But he sticks with Peyton Thorne, and he has another bad year and just sticks with him through the entire year. And now you got Jackson Arnold, a guy who, I'll be honest, when it comes to reading defense, Jackson's just not your guy. I don't want to throw too much shade on the kid. He's a similar situation to Peyton Thorne. It's not his fault. He was benched at Oklahoma. We saw it. And so I think with this Auburn team, I do think it'll be close. The line right now is -3.5 Georgia. This is another one. I wouldn't be surprised if it's -1.5 or minus half a point going into the game on Saturday night. And Jordan Hare, it always has that little extra add of magic, with this being a night game. But I think this Georgia team coming off that loss against Alabama, they have everything to lose. And I think they're going against an Auburn team that still doesn't know their identity 6 games into the season. And so I think Georgia wins this. I think it's going to be rough, scrappy, nasty, which would favor Auburn as a team that is defensive. But I think this Georgia team wins 17-13 in a dogfight, and it's a late game drive. Don't be surprised if Auburn is up in the fourth quarter. But if there's one team, as a fan of this team, I can't trust late in the game, and it's because that guy whose name starts with H and ends with an E, and his name is Hugh Freeze on the sideline. As long as he is there, I cannot trust Auburn to hold a fourth quarter lead. We saw it when I was at a game last with you, Reese, against
Hmm.
Oklahoma last year.
I
Don't
was
be
there
surprised if
too.
Auburn's
Yep.
leading.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, don't be surprised if Auburn is leading going into this fourth quarter, and then Gunnar Stockton, just pig farmer, just on the green, just out there throwing piss missiles down the sideline to Noah Thomas and Zachariah Branch. Give me Georgia 17-13 on the road to get a win.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to go with Taylor on this one. I just see a different. I mean, Auburn gets the bye week. Auburn gets the bye week after the two losses on the road. You get a chance to adjust with everything. The O line is just not there. I mean, like Taylor said, the O line needs to just hopefully they just fix it at this point. And then, going to the Georgia side of things, I just feel like Georgia exposed way too much going after the Bama game. I mean, they exposed way too much, and I just feel like last week against Kentucky, Georgia just didn't look that good, and I feel like this Auburn defense, Keldrick Falk, going to be able to get a bunch of sacks. More like I feel like this defensive line is just going to be able to do a lot more than a lot of people think, and Jackson Arnold coming in this game, if he can find his receivers, if he can run the ball and get elusive out of the pocket, this Auburn team wins the game by more than a lot of people think. But for now, I'm gonna stick with Auburn. But if Auburn loses this game, I would not be surprised because it is the Auburn way. And if they lose that game, then looks like basketball season. Here we come yet again.
I want to agree with y'all. I mean, I got this requested made by my aunt as well as a gift. Auburn. I've lived there my entire life since I was 3. I want this Auburn team to win this game. I hope they win this game. I
Mm-hmm.
hope it ends with a field rush like y'all are talking about. But as long as this Auburn team has that guy named Hugh Freeze, and like I said, great guy, have met him. He's great, great dude. I love his view on life and everything like that. But at the end of the day, if you're not doing your job, you get fired. And you're right. Auburn needs this win. Taylor, you're absolutely right when you say that. But don't be surprised. Like you just said, Reese, and like I'll say again, if this Auburn team's up late and then just they just become Panic and Skywalker, just hands start shaking and they're not able to focus and they lose it in the fourth quarter. I've seen it too many times, but I hope y'all are right. I like the
Mm-hmm.
positive thinking.
Yeah. But Taylor, actually in a minute we will get to your team, the Sun Devils, but for now we're going to get to your rival team, Arizona. BYU versus Arizona. This game is a night game, 7 o'clock at Central Time. This game should be a good game. It's at Arizona. Arizona's 4-1 on the season. BYU coming here 5-0, ranked 18th in the country. BYU has to be on the lookout because Arizona has a high-powered offense. And guys, what do you think about this matchup?
I'm gonna say 2 words.
Oh, okay.
Bear down. Like I no, that's a good thing. I genuinely think
Yeah, I was
U
about to say, I'm kind
is
of
going to win
surprised.
this game. I think BYU is one of the most overrated. How are they ranked right now? How are they
Yeah.
ranked 18? Noah Fafita is a dog. He's without T-Mac, but he has plenty of other receivers. It pains me to do it, but I really think U of A is going to win this game, and I don't think it's going to be close. And U of A is a hard place to play, especially down in dirty Tucson. But I just think BYU, Noah Fafita is going to pick them apart. BYU's defense has just not been great this year. I think Bachmeier is decent, but give me the Wildcats to win this game. Bear down.
I disagree. I
Mm,
think that BYU goes into Arizona and gets a win. And I'll tell you why. Ever since they've had that head coach, I can't pronounce his name, but he's this Samoan guy, and he's been there since I've been basically been born. He's always been at BYU. And I mean, they have just found a way to win. And Bear Bachmeier, what a story. I mean, like true freshman starting day one at BYU and hasn't played terrible this year. 1,048 yards, 79 for 115, and then 7 touchdowns, 1 interception. And I watched this BYU team play against, I'll say it, a not very good West Virginia team. But I also watched Arizona play against Iowa State in their biggest game of the season and get absolutely blown out 39 to 14 against an Iowa State team who just lost to Cincinnati. So I think that BYU comes in and they find a way to win. It's the opposite with BYU as compared to Auburn. They always find a way to win. Good, bad, or ugly, they are going to find a way to win. I think BYU slows down this Arizona offense, which You said they've been bad. They've been bad the last 2 weeks, but before that, these past 2 weeks, they hadn't allowed a touchdown. They were the longest team in the country to not allow a touchdown. And so I think this BYU team, they get a couple turnovers, and Chase Roberts streaks down the sideline to win a game-winning touchdown from Bear Bachmeier. Go BYU Cougars. And yeah, I think BYU gets the win on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know this game. This game, Big 12 is just a great conference this year, I feel like. A lot of good teams, Texas Tech, BYU, Arizona State, Utah, just a ton of great teams in that conference this year. This game will be a great game. I have to agree with both of you on this one. I mean, I'm gonna pick BYU though, but I will say I agree with what Taylor said about Arizona. Arizona, great offense there. Noah Fafita, great quarterback. I mean, this team has just been outstanding so far this year. I feel like just a little bit underrated, honestly. And BYU, like you said, Max, they've looked good this season, and I feel like this BYU team will be able to get the job done. But it will be a close game, and I think it's gonna be a high scoring game too. It's gonna be one of those Big 12 matchups that you look back in a few years and you're like, oh, that game was like 52 to 56. I'm not gonna say it's that high, but I'm gonna say it's in the 40s range. I'm gonna say maybe like 45 to 42, something like that. I think both offenses are going to be able to get things going, but Arizona will drop this one. But I really like this matchup on Saturday night, a late game, late Big 12 game, and I like the Cougars in this one.
Yeah, and I'll say one more thing about BYU. I mean, I think they're right now, if they win this game on the road, they control their destiny in the Big 12. I mean, they're the lone undefeated team in the Big 12 outside of Texas Tech, who I think is an absolute wagon right now this year.
Yeah.
And Texas Tech plays Arizona State in a couple of weeks here, and that'll be a big game. And I feel like Arizona State, they have a chance. That will be a revenge game because I remember Arizona State lost to Texas Tech last year. So that will be a revenge game for the Sun Devils. If they can win that game and that sets up Texas Tech with one loss, I mean, this BYU team, you look at the rest of their schedule, they beat Arizona. They don't really have a crazy path to a Big 12 championship. You get Utah at home. You go on the road to Iowa State, who I'm not very high on personally. I don't know how y'all feel about the Cyclones. But then you go on the road to Texas Tech, which is going to be a dogfight. Then you get TCU at home at Cincinnati, which will be tough. And then at home against UCF, who is basically a high school team from what I saw against Kansas. And so I think that, yeah, I think BYU has a shot. But it starts with this weekend against Arizona. It should be a good game.
Yeah, and I mean, like you mentioned, Arizona State and Texas Tech, which is the game. Arizona State will be the next team we will highlight against Utah, but yeah, I feel like Arizona State that game could be game day, them versus Texas Tech, and I'm really excited. But gonna move to our last game of the Week 7 preview. It is Arizona State at Utah. This game, I mean, could shake up the Big 12 race for sure. Arizona State only lost on the season. Taylor, you saw this in person, sadly. Only lost on the season in Stark Vegas against the Mississippi State Bulldogs. But this Arizona State team, I still have faith. I still have faith. Sam Levitt, really good quarterback, really solid quarterback. Kenny Dillingham has a great squad there in Arizona State, and I feel like this Arizona State team is ready to beat a team like Utah with Devin Dampier at quarterback, and this game will be a really good game. But who do you guys have between the Sun Devils and the Utes?
All right, I'll start it off here because I think Taylor's gonna. He's got that big Sun Devils banner in the background. He's got some stuff to say about this game, and I'll make mine quick. This Arizona State team, you go on the road to Mississippi State, a team that not a lot of people thought was going to be that good this year. I will say Mississippi State has proved a lot of us wrong. They, to me, are one of the surprises of the SEC. I know they just got blown out against A&M, but I think they kept that close for a half. This Mississippi State team's better than we realized, and it started with a win over that guy that Taylor's holding up in his hand right there, a win over Sparky on a late touchdown. But I will say this Arizona State team, I love Sam Levitt. I think he was one of the least talked about returning QBs in college football this
Mm-hmm.
year, and he has looked shaky at times. But I will say this is also an Arizona State team, and I've talked about it with my friends that are really didn't really watch Arizona State, they watched them in the playoffs, but didn't really watch them. If you really watch Arizona State, they were not a Scattaboo made team. Sam Levitt's a dog. Jordan Tyson's the best receiver in the country. And I know people that will say this ASU team is Scattaboo made. I mean, right now they have a dog at running back, Raleek Brown, 77 carries for 506 yards and 2 touchdowns right now. I mean, like this Arizona State team, they're just really balanced. The defense will need to probably get some turnovers against this Utah team, which under Kyle Whittingham is very well disciplined and won't make a lot of mistakes. Give me Arizona State on the road to beat the Utes and set up a huge matchup against Texas Tech the following week. Give me Arizona State. I think it'll be it won't be super high scoring. I think it's 27-24, late game winning field goal by Arizona State.
Nice.
Yeah, this year I've gotten a lot of great opportunity. I've been around the team. I've
Hmm.
covered every single game so far except for TCU, where we had the walk-off field goal. I got to travel to Starkville and Waco. But the thing about this ASU team is we started off against NAU. It was a shaky game, wasn't a great game. And then we go to Mississippi State. We run a zero blitz. Our guy, Xavier Alford trips while running, trying to rush the quarterback, and it's a game-winning play. We lose. But ever since then, Texas State, we looked awesome. Jordan Tyson and Sam Levitt looked like the best duo in the country. Against Baylor, we get the game-winning field goal. We shut down one of the best quarterbacks in Sawyer Robertson, who leads the nation in passing yards. And then last week, we beat a really good TCU team who's ranked on a blackout here at home Friday night. This ASU team, you can talk about Sam Levitt, Raleek Brown, Jordan Tyson, best receiver in the country, but it really starts from the defense. Jordan Crook has won two Big 12 Defensive Player of the Week awards. Keyshawn Elliott, our linebacker's a dog. Xavier Alford is unfortunately out for this game. Keith Abney. You just look up and down the roster. There's a bunch of high-flying, underrated guys that have really not have gotten their chance until they came to ASU. And I think that's what makes the Sun Devils different from other teams is we always have that chip on our shoulder. And Kenny Dillingham plays into that narrative every single game. He hypes the guys up. He's a great coach. He's a great person if you ever get to meet him. But give me Arizona State winning this game. I gotta go my alma mater right here. Utah's a good team. Devin Dampier is a good quarterback. They looked horrible against Texas Tech, and the Texas Tech defense is nowhere near as dominant as Arizona State's defense. So give me Sparky right here. Give me ASU. I got forks up. Sun Devils win this game, and we move on. Get college game day here in Tempe against Texas Tech.
Yeah, I'm excited for this matchup. Like I said, this game could shake up the Big 12 race for sure. Arizona State, solid team. I feel like Kenny Dillingham's gotten it turned around since that Mississippi State loss. He got his guys together, was able to do what they needed to do against those teams, like you mentioned, Taylor. And I feel like this Arizona State team, your Arizona State Sun Devils, will win this game against the Utes. And I mean, that Texas Tech game in a few weeks going to be a really big game. Could be a rematch maybe if they meet each other in the Big 12 championship in Dallas, Texas. But really excited to see what happens here on Saturday night, late game, 9:15. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens. I'll definitely will be up watching that one. And obviously I have work early in the morning on Sunday, but I'll be up watching some college
You know
football
I'm going to
late.
be watching that after the Auburn game.
Yeah,
Be
Yeah.
but
downtown Auburn watching ASU football.
I mean, yeah, they'll definitely have a lot of games on, I'm sure, and hopefully Auburn gets the win, so you could get a win-win on Saturday. But I know I said we were going to talk about NFL and everything, but this episode just has kind of ran a little bit longer than I thought. So I guess today's just going to be college football on the show. But hopefully, next week we can talk a little bit more NFL. Obviously, tonight the Jags play soon. They actually play in 15 minutes, so I'm excited to see. But yeah, guys, thanks for being on the show today, Max and Taylor. Appreciate it. I mean, it was a great episode. And if there's anything you guys want to say to the fans, you can.
Yeah, I just want to,
I'll say,
before Max grabs whatever he's grabbing, I just want to say
Freaking
it's been super fun. It feels like the good old days when we were in high school, and then I was a freshman in college, and Reese was a junior in high school, and Max was about to go to Full Sail. We were doing more episodes on our Game Time podcast, but yeah, a bunch of fun. Thank you for having us, Reese. You're doing a great job, doing amazing things with being the voice of the Auburn Tigers, and Max is doing amazing things over there at Full Sail. He just called a Madden tournament that had like 5 million views or something. So his voice is out there. We're all doing great things, and forks up, baby.
Yeah, for sure.
I just wanted to yeah, I like the sentiment and stuff. I want to clear up anything. Saints all the way. I'm wearing a Jags shirt, a jersey because I have some friends who are Jags fans. Obviously, being down here in Florida, it's all Jags, it's all Tampa Bay. So, but just wanted to clear up confusion. But like Taylor said, I mean, we're all doing great things in this industry that I love so much. I mean,
Mhm.
Taylor got to go to Mississippi State in one of the best environments of the year, and then got to go to Waco a couple weeks later. I mean, and then Reese, you're doing this podcast, which I've been seeing all over. You're putting out, you're being consistent with it, and I just love seeing all of us, prosper and stuff. And I appreciate you, yeah, having us on this podcast. It really was a joy to be able to talk to you guys, and hopefully we can do it again, maybe in person in the future sometime.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
I'm
and
excited.
the thing about this too is we're doing this all over the country. I'm all the way out on the west.
Yeah.
Max is all the way down here,
Yeah.
and then Reese is going to be in good old state of Alabama. But one day we'll all be NFL broadcasters calling an NFL game, and we'll be chatting it up with our boards and everything. So I'm
Yeah, I
excited to
mean,
see where the show goes for you, Reese. You're doing a great job, consistent.
yeah, appreciate y'all, like
Yeah.
I said, for coming on the show. If you guys want to follow Max and Taylor on Instagram, Max underscore 23 dot Mesman, and then obviously T dot Gautney on Instagram, and I'll put those down there on the graphic. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for coming on the show, and I hope you guys have a good weekend. Taylor, I might see you this weekend in Auburn for the Auburn Georgia game,
Sure.
and I'm excited to see some college football this weekend. But it was a great episode, guys, and appreciate your time.